Erica Dial, and I am the CEO of the Maple Valley Black Diamond Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. So we're very excited to have the candidates here that are running for the City of Maple Valley and for the Tahoma School District. Thank you very much for your time, candidates. I know taking time away from the evening for your family and being put in the hot seat isn't, the most fun, but we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate the audience for being here as well. Thank you for coming. It's very important for you to get information and learn about what these candidates and what they stand for so that you can make an informed decision when you go to vote in November. So thank you. The Chamber, I just want to explain a little bit about the Chamber. The Chamber is a membership organization, and we are made up of area businesses. And our goal is to advocate for businesses, provide opportunities for business to connect, and really to grow their business. And we also want to build community. And so that's why we do events like this, is to give back to our community. We feel it's very important. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator for tonight, Griffin Casey. Griffin is an attorney with Casey and Grove Law offices here in Maple Valley. She lives in Black Diamond, and she's a graduate of Tahoma High School. When she went on to college, she received her bachelor's from the University of Washington and earned her master's from Central. Before attending law school at Seattle University, she was a high school teacher. Griffin's practice is focused on estate planning and probate, business law, and real property. Griffin is president-elect of the Chamber of Commerce and serves on the Tahoma Schools Foundation Board. She is also the recipient of the Washington State Bar Association Apex Award for Excellence in Public Service for her work promoting civic education and engagement. And really, Griffin is a rock star when it comes to stuff like this. She puts a lot of time and energy into what she does, and I just want to say thank you so much, Griffin, for doing this. We're not quite sure where we would be without her. So please help me welcome Griffin Casey.
Thank you. What a great turnout tonight. It's exciting to see everybody here. This is a really important process, an opportunity to get out of our homes and out from behind our keyboards and to actually be looking eye to eye, face to face, and engaging in this process. So thank you so much to the candidates for being here. I know this isn't easy, but we really appreciate your participation. Erica talked a little bit about why we do this, and one thing I want to underscore for everybody is this event is a function of the Chamber of Commerce. It's a courtesy that we offer to the community. We think it's beneficial in the voting process, and something that's important to us is that we hold an event that is neutral and that provides an opportunity for our candidates to engage with each other. The process of preparing for this event is year-long with a bit more concentration in the months ramping up. But the Chamber of Commerce has a legislative committee and then our board of directors which tracks and focuses on what are relevant issues to our school district, to our region, to our city. And we want to provide an event that focuses on those different concerns and relevant events so that you can be more informed when it comes time to vote. With respect to forming our questions, it's a process of drawing questions from the community. Folks are able to contribute them through social media or by emailing them to us. Our board helps put them together. I go through them all and then we review them at the board level and at the legislative committee level. So it goes through a number of different passes. And then tonight, you'll also have the opportunity to contribute your own question. If you don't already have a little white card, there are cards that board members can hand to you and you can submit a question. At the end, we will go through hopefully a handful of these and be able to address audience questions, as many as time allows. When you do these questions, please keep them generic for the body that you would like to address them to, either any of the city or all of the city candidates or all of the school board candidates, rather than just a question directed at one person. So here we go. The first thing we're going to do is have our candidates introduce themselves, and we're going to start down here at the end. Please take 1 minute and go ahead and introduce who you are and why you're running.
So my name, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? My name is Stormy Rigtrup. I have lived here in Maple Valley for 3 years. I love the district here. I love the community here. I have 4 stepkids who attend school here, one in high school, one in Mapleview Middle School, and then 2 in Mapleview, and and I think that I can. Actually, I know that I can make a difference.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pete Miller, and I'm a father here in the district. I've got 2 kids, one in 8th grade at Sun Trail and one in 4th grade at Vision Park. I am a CPA by background. That's my day job. I've been doing that for a long time. We've been in Maple Valley for 15 years, and we moved here because the school district primarily had such a stellar reputation, and that's come true. Our kids have really thrived here. We're happy for that. I got involved a year and a half ago when we failed an operating levy. We started to wonder why that happened. And, both of our kids have needs of one sort or another, and we came to realize that those services and supports that they received were funded by that levy. And we wanted to make sure that pushed forward and the future generations of kids could grow and learn the same that our kids did with those supports. And so that each of involvement, understanding that levy turned into kind of a mile. I started to attend a lot of board meetings, understand the process of parts, and through all of that, I got interested in this opportunity, and I'm really excited to give kids the opportunity to learn and grow.
Hi everyone, my name is Malia Hollowell, and I'm excited to be running for seat number 3 in our school district. I started teaching 16 years ago, and I instantly fell in love with those magical moments kids have where they make new discoveries and learn new things. So I became committed to being the very best teacher I could be. And I went on to earn my master's degree from Stanford University, and I earned my national board certification, which is the highest level of certification a teacher can receive in our country. And then about 8 years ago, I was on a year-long maternity leave for our second son, Grant. And for any of you in the audience who are parents, you know that your focus changes a little bit. So I was very focused on my life with the kids, but I also missed being in education. So I started a blog called Play-Doh to Play-Doh, and I just shared math games and reading activities I was doing with our older son, who was 3. And that took off. So the last 8 years, that's been my full-time job. I create teaching activities that teachers use in their classrooms. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jamie Fairbanks, and I am the mother of 5 children, 4 of which attend our schools, 1 at Tahoma High School, 1 at Mapleview Middle School, and 2 at Shadow Lake Elementary. I spent I was a school teacher for 6 years and spent the last 8 years volunteering in our schools here in Tahoma. As a public school teacher, I worked in 3 different school districts, and I can tell you from my years of experience that Tahoma really is at a very critical turning point. There are some vast needs that we have between our elementary, middle school, and high school students. And I believe that I'm the only candidate here that has work experience in all 3 areas. 8 years volunteering in our elementary schools, 2 years in the middle school, and 4 years at the high school. And the breadth and depth of 14 years of experience working in schools really cannot be reproduced through textbooks or scholarships.
Good evening, and I want to thank first the Maple Valley Black Diamond Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and everybody coming out on a wet and stormy night to be here to learn more about all of us. My name is Sid Dawson, and I'm running for the Maple Valley City Council position number 5. My family moved here a little over 20 years ago. We were attracted to the natural beauty of the area and the city. Since then, I've been involved in many aspects of our community, from Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts as my children were young, to being a member of on boards with the Maple Valley Historical Society and the Greater Maple Valley Community Center. I also participate in many of the events, such as Maple Valley Make a Difference Day coming up next Saturday. I hope to see many of you there. But I'm also currently on the City Council, where I also serve on a number of the subcommittees, including the Finance Committee, Highways 169 Safety Committee, the Future Downtown Development. So I look forward to serving another 4 years. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Axtell, and I'm all about service, whether it was serving in the military serving in law enforcement, or responding to disasters all over the world. Service doesn't come without sacrifice. So first of all, I have to applaud everyone for stepping up on the stage, those currently here today and those in the past that have done so. So right now, my focus is on what I can do for you as a member of the community and how I can make Maple Valley a great place to live. So that is my focus, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Thank you very much, guys.
Hello. Hi, my name is Victoria Schroff, and I'm running for position 3 on City Council. And my family and I moved here a little over 10 years ago and promptly fell in love with this place and the people. And since then, it's been the best 10 years of my life. And we've raised our daughter here in the Tahoma School District, and she's now her 2nd year at UW. And I have my own small business here in town. I spend the majority of my time right here in Maple Valley, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And throughout our time here, I've volunteered for a number of our nonprofits here in town, which we have several of them, and I think that speaks to the big heart we have in this community. And I just thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm really honored to be sharing the stage with everybody up here tonight. So thanks for coming out.
Hi, my name is Les Burberry, and I'm running for re-election to City Council position number 3. I served for 2 years previous to this term on the Council and Planning Commission, and of course looking forward to what we can do on the Legacy site to build out just an amazing place for our city center. Also, just want to note in terms of who I am, my background. My wife and I, Patty, we moved here into Maple Valley 22 years ago. We've raised our 6 children here, and my youngest son, Jack, is a sophomore here at Tahoma High School. We've been blessed by the community here, just in how we've been able to raise our family in such a beautiful place. My intent is to continue to make Maple Valley the best place in Washington to raise a family.
It's a really cool thing tonight to see all the young people here from the high school. We the people and everybody else here, so thanks for coming out tonight. It means a lot to us up here. One of the big reasons I ran for council 8 years ago was to make sure our youth were represented. And one of the big things the council just did this last year is that new park right over here. Okay, so can we give a big round of applause to the park? Is we need to make sure people feel safe and welcome in Maple Valley. That's what I'm going to continue to work on when I get reelected for 4 more terms. I don't have anybody running against me, but I just want to make sure you hear what I'm saying. And the third thing I want to continue working on with the council and the senior staff is to continue to make people feel welcome, and we partner with all of our organizations in town because we cannot do it by ourselves. We have to have a partnership to move things forward, and the Chamber is one of the biggest partners we have in the city of Maple Valley. So thank you, Chamber. Looking forward to working with all of you.
So now we're going to turn to our lightning round, and after the lightning round, we'll do our icebreaker and dig in. So first up, for the lightning round, you will notice that you have possibly red and green cards, and so do our candidates. And what we will do is I will have 7 questions for the city, 7 questions for the district. I will turn to them, and if they agree, they will hold up the green card. In the event they disagree or say no, they will have the red card. And after we see what our candidates have to say, we will turn to the audience and see what the audience has to say. I always disclaim this part because I know it's the part that the candidates hate the most, because there's no caveats or escape clauses or anything else they can do to excuse themselves. So I'm forcing their hand. I can see Sid over there smiling. So I know, but we're gonna get through this part and then we'll move on to the icebreaker and dig in. Okay, so first up, for the school board candidates, First, do you believe that Tahoma School District, as of right now, is a school district worth moving here for? Audience. Candidates, does it matter to you what our neighboring districts are doing? Does it matter what the neighboring districts are doing? Audience. Do you believe, candidates, that Tahoma is currently serving our high cap students' needs at the middle school and high school level? Are we meeting the needs of our high cap kids at the middle school and high school level? When you are making decisions, who is number one? Who is the tip-top priority you have to pick? The voters or the kids? Kids are green, voters are red. The voters or the kids? And the kids are the students. All right. 5. Candidates, is it beneficial to have teachers and administrators who live in the community where they work? Is it beneficial to have teachers and administrators who live in the community where they work? Six, is there an achievement gap in our school district at any of the 3 levels? Is there an achievement gap? Pete's colorblind. Okay. Audience? Finally, is the district currently meeting the social emotional needs of our students? Are we meeting the social emotional needs of our students? Audience. Thank you. All right, we're going to turn to the city now for the lightning round. City, do you support including residential housing on the Legacy site? Audience. The Legacy site is the property that is directly across or west of Rock Creek across Maple Valley Highway, the large piece of property there. Second question, do you think that Maple Valley needs any more multifamily housing beyond what's built and what's in the pipeline? Good, audience? Three, with respect to commercial space, if it's possible at all, should a city try to protect a balance of locally owned small businesses against big box or franchises? Should they try to balance if possible? Audience. All right. Is homelessness a relevant issue in Maple Valley? Is homelessness a relevant issue in Maple Valley? Okay. 5, would you support a safe injection site in our city? Audience. Six, based on perception alone, does our city have a property crime problem? Based on perception alone, does our city have a property crime problem? It's perception. Okay, audience? Okay, and our final question. Do you believe that our city needs more professional office space, not to be confused with retail? Audience. Good. Every year Jim Flynn holds up his red card there. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn to our icebreaker. And what this is a chance to go through and just give me a quick, good answer. Do your best to keep it at about 30 seconds. So I would like to hear first from the school board. We're going to start, Jamie, with you and come this way. And the question is what do you think the district is doing well? And then what's one thing you really want to improve on? So what's the district doing well and what's one thing you want to improve on?
The district, what what the district is doing well is it has the best employees, especially our teachers and paraeducators. I think are the best. So I think that's something that we're doing incredibly well. Yeah. And then something to improve on, I would say communication and transparency are the things that we need to improve on.
William? So Jamie, you actually stole mine, but I'm going to add, so I'll choose something else. I actually think that our faculty and staff are phenomenal. I agree with you. And I'd also add on that I think that we're really great about collaborating and bringing in voices from the community, parents to make collaborative decisions for our school district, which is incredibly valuable. And the things that we're not doing well, mental health is at the top of the list. I think that we saw in the last couple of years losing current and past students that it's critical that we provide a solid mental health program for our kids. Thank you. Pete?
Something I think that we're doing well, right here at the high school, I think that the pathways that high school students have to launch out in the world outside of Tahoma, whether it's a four-year college, whether it's entering a trade, whether it's something else, I think it's spectacular. We've built out all of those possibilities as opportunities for the kids at Tahoma. And then what can we work on? I think social emotional learning is something that we need to boost. I think we need to give the teachers in the system more resources, provide more paraeducators in that area, and partner with outside organizations to give the kids every chance they need.
Mine's similar to theirs. I was going to say great programs, and I was thinking about the pathways. Care for the students. I feel like this district and this community really care about the students and the education in which they are getting. Something that I feel that we can improve on is more communication with transparency with the community, but also more community involvement, meaning having more committees and having the community more involved in decision making.
Thank you. Okay, we'll turn to the city, and Sid, we're going to start with you and work down to the mayor. So, for the city candidates, what do you think that Maple Valley is doing well, and what's one thing you would want to improve?
Well, I believe we do a great job of partnering with different agencies in the community, both from the school district to nonprofits to other cities in the area, Black Diamond, Covington, the coalitions we have built. We've been able to bring on the Summit Park on time, under budget, a great addition to the city. I think one of the things that we could do much better on is better economic development, being able to attract living wage jobs where the people can live and work and play here.
Thank you. Sure.
So one thing I think we're doing well is we definitely are looking out for the youth. I mean, with the addition of the park, initially I was worried about expenses on the parks and things like that. But I see there's a lot of positive good in that, including the robotics program for the high school. On the negative side, I'm a little flustered to see some of the decision making on the town center. We had to bring in a consultant for us to stand up and say, this is our town center. I think we need to improve it in that area.
Victoria?
So I think one of the things we get really right, I think there are a lot of things, but one of them is I think the city really seeks the input of the community on big decisions. There have been so many forums on what do you want to see in a town center, and this is the legacy side, and transportation information meetings. So I feel like they really do a good job of trying to keep everybody informed. The thing I would improve upon is we need to revisit the tree code and do better with our tree retention.
I think one of the things that we have done most recently in the last 4 years is improved our plans. And we've brought in the input of both of our citizens and made sure that we were connected in our partnerships and getting all of the input that was necessary. Unfortunately, government takes a long time to move, I've learned as I've been involved. And so you're seeing the fruition of some of those plans right now. but you'll see a lot more coming in the next 4 years.
One thing we're really good at is we are a very safe community. We were just recently ranked 8th in the state as the safest cities to live in. The 281 cities in the state of Washington. That's outstanding to our community partners and the police department there. One thing I think we really need to work on over the next couple of years is we need more parks and more recreational activities for everybody in town. So we have to continue to work on that, and we're budgeting towards that. And the council's really working hard on that, so that's where we are.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to begin the first of 5 rounds where the candidates are going to have a minute each to answer a question. In this portion, I will draw the questions at random from the bins up here. And one thing to note is that each district or position will have a different question, so we're not going to be hearing the same thing over and over. And in the first 3 rounds, I'll draw your question for you. If you hear a question from the other position that you want to get to answer, hold up your green card for me and I'll mark it. And then in the last 2 rounds, you'll have an opportunity to answer a question you wish that had been drawn for you. In the event that there was no question that you wish was drawn for you, I've got extras, so I can just draw something new. And remember, at the end of this first round, if you have any questions that you want to submit to us, you can hold up the white cards and Erica could come around and grab those, and then we'll do that once or twice again after that. All right, so round 1, we are going to start with the school, with district number 3, and Malia, you will go first. And here's our question. How much do you worry about Tahoma keeping up with our neighboring school districts with respect to tech, high cap, and social emotional services? So how much do you worry about Tahoma School District keeping up with our neighboring districts with respect to tech, high cap, and social emotional services?
So I believe it's incredibly important that we provide the very best possible experiences for all of our kids, and so keeping up with them is not the wording that I would use, but providing the best opportunities is certainly a top priority for mine. So in terms of tech, I am an active member of the Vote Yes campaign that will be helping make our tech levy hopefully pass so that we can provide the technology that our students need in order to be able to thrive. In terms of high cap, I am part of the PATH committee that is a group of parents that are advocating for better support for our high cap students, particularly in the middle school, so I'm part of that advocacy group. And then for SEL, that obviously that's one of my top priorities actually because of the mental health. We really need to make sure that we're providing mental health support for our students so that they are able to graduate ready to take on the highs and lows that life will inevitably bring them.
Thank you. Jamie?
Scarlett Lewis, the mother of a Sandy Hook victim, said that we cannot always choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we respond. And social emotional learning is basically teaching our kids how to respond to that, how to respond to the tragedies and the traumas that they're going to face in this life. Currently, our school district uses the Second Step program, and this is a top-rated program. They guarantee an $11 to $1 return, or a $1 to $11 return on using that particular program. But we only extend that through 5th grade. I think we need to extend Second Step program all the way through. Nobody wants to go back to middle school, because we all know how rough that was. Extending that through middle school will be very valuable. Of course, extending high cap as well through middle school, of course, is going to stretch those kids that need that stretching and get them to where they need to be so that they are challenged when they come to school every day, and that will keep them engaged.
Okay. So moving to our next position, we're going to start with Pete. And Pete, your question is, what role should the school district play with respect to the social emotional health of our kids? Would you seek to create a change where the students can be better assessed for mental health needs and accessing such services? So what role does the district play with respect to social emotional health? Do you seek to create change? And how could they be better assessed and help accessing such services? Pete, you'll begin.
I definitely think the school district has a role to play. I think it's really exciting that they're using pilot program for the Espert grant, and we can tell you more about that as time permits. But we're starting out with 8th graders and doing screening and testing kids to see if they have referral needs. So I think that there definitely is a role to play as far as diagnosing and identifying those types of needs. I think it's a great role for them to have. I think that the school district also needs to develop partnerships with the chamber, with the city, in order to get more professionals in this market to help those kids that need those referrals out. For the time being, when our kids need referrals, they'd say, well, go to this professional in Bellevue, go to this professional in Kirkland, or this driving 20 or 30 miles is really hard to do at the end of the day, or pulling a kid out of school. So getting more of those professionals right here, I think there's a role for the school when we play there too.
Yes, I think that the district has a role to play. Something I've been doing lots of research on this. The second toll for death rates of suicide for teens between 14 and 19 years old, and so it's something that's really important because those are the teens who are in our schools. I think that we need to go outside of the school and get professionals who know a lot about depression and anxiety and help have them train teachers correctly and appropriately. I also feel that we need to talk about it. It needs to be open. Something that I've learned is depression and anxiety, they thrive in secrecy. And so I feel as a district we need to be talking about depression, talking about anxiety so that kids can identify it and then we can help them work through it. I also believe that teachers need to be trained to know how to identify it as well so they can help them.
Thank you. Okay. We will turn to you now, Mayor Kelly. Here's your question. Some are concerned about the recent increase in multifamily housing and generally the traffic and crowding in town. Will you please address your perspective on interim zoning, the moratorium, and concerns with respect to traffic and crowding?
Well, we're working really hard as a state right now to get more funding for 169 and especially Highway 18 and I-90, which the Chamber is leading on, so we're very appreciative of that, and we've put more funding towards that. As far as building out the city right there, this council really needs to sit down with the Planning Commission and start working on the new zoning layout in the city, the whole city as a whole. Because we need to work on we have, like you said, with interim zoning right now, for the audience, interim zoning is we have certain pockets around the city, the north end of the city, we're not building any houses or condos or in that area. The moratorium is more in the south end of the city, where we're trying to come up with the town center area, what we're going to envision there, and the council is working on that. We've got a task force going on right now, and then after the first quarter next year, we'll be diving into the legacy site and that quite a bit. So we're going to need a lot of public input on that, but it's this council member's goal right here to slow down the residential in the city.
Thank you. Now we're going to turn to position number 3. Les, you will be first. And your question is, in 1990, our state passed a Growth Management Act, which determined specific growth corridors in each county. Maple Valley was designated as an urban growth corridor at that time. We have met our 2031 growth requirement. Today, there is discussion amongst some legislators of revisiting and revising the Growth Management Act. Would you support revising the Growth Management Act, and if so, how? If not, why? So this would be with respect to if you would lobby actively our legislature to modify the GMA.
Yes. So first of all, the Growth Management Act did determine that Maple Valley, the city limits, which are only 5.7 square miles, would be an urban growth district. I do not support and do not look to see any more density occur here, or I'm not interested in seeing how the Growth Management Act would change the concept of limiting urban sprawl. I like those things. I like that it limits urban sprawl. The aspects that it did not address were that growth management promised certain benefits towards those urban growth districts that were never delivered. And some of those were in the area of transportation, being able to connect these urban growth districts with the communities that they serve with populations of workers. And that's where we really need some change in the effect of the GMA.
Victoria.
So I agree, there are aspects of it that I really like, and I don't know that needs to be revised, in my opinion. The limiting urban sprawl and also being good stewards of the environment, those are big parts of it. The multimodal transportation and connectivity are part of it too, but it's also my understanding that if we bring more of that to the area, for example, if there was more of like a light rail station nearby or something like that, that then it would also force our hand that we would have to build more, that we would have to have more housing and more to sit, so, and round it goes. So I would like to look at it closer, but I don't know that revising it is something I would actively seek, but maybe embracing a little bit more what it really stands for. And that's the pro-environment and curbing the urban sprawl, so.
Position number 5, we will start with you, Richard. And the question for you and Sid is, what are your top priorities for budgeting? How well have the recent budgets reflected your priorities, and how will you advocate for change if needed?
Well, I'm all about financial resilience and community resilience, and the first thing that I would do is look at exactly where our budgets are going. Every time we build a service within Maple Valley, there's costs associated with it. Like I mentioned earlier about the parks, I was worried about the costs associated with managing that. We have to look at the return on investment and the amount of income we take on not just sales, but also our other taxes as well, and our license fees within the city. Are we in the red or are we in the black? There were several years straight we were actually pulling out of our reserve fund, and that kind of worries me. And we're on the trend of building more and more services, and we're going to be on an issue where we're going to have to focus on bringing in more sales and more taxes. So rather than going the tax route, we have to look at our actual commercial space. We tend to provide mixed-use housing along with some commercial space. We need to start focusing on bringing in industry as well as retail.
So the first priority for any city is public safety. So one of our top priorities this past budget was we added an additional police officer for 2019. We have a second one coming on in 2020. So ensuring our public safety is our #1 priority. Our next priorities would come under transportation, continuing to improve our infrastructure with our roads. As we are doing right now, we're improving 169 from 240th up to Whitty, but there's additional sections that still have to be done throughout the city. Increasing that so we have a full 5 lanes, two in each direction and a center turn lane will help with transportation through the city. And then ensuring our we have sensible growth with the development of the legacy site, and we're going to set the expectations for that, along with how we're going to bring on a downtown vision for Maple Valley.
Thank you. Now we're going to move into round 2 of the process. If you've got a question with candidates, you want to hold up the white card, you can do that, and Erica can come around and grab those now. So we're going to start now with District 4. Stormy, you'll be our first candidate to answer a question. Okay. Does this community expect a high-quality level of education and services from the district? Are you comfortable that Tahoma could offer that level of education without a budget supplemented by levy dollars? How does the quality of the district impact the community?
Yes, I think that we have a high quality of education. I don't think that we can maintain our high quality of budget or our high quality of education and classes and programs without a levy. Education costs money, and the state only provides enough money for the very basic of educations. I believe that when we do have a levy, that we need to, I believe that it's important to have multiple people on a committee helping create the committee, professionals and community members, parents, and also teachers and administrators. I also believe that when there is a levy, that the school board and the district need to be transparent where the money is going and how we are spending it.
I also believe that the school district is producing really high quality students, and the programs that are coming out of the schools are producing future ready kids. I believe that. I think it's great. I do think that the levy is necessary. The operating levy, the tech levies that we have had in the past are necessary in order to provide that funding needed to make those programs work. The operating levy is about 10 to 15% of our budget, and so without that, there's a lot that goes away. I think the levy is important. I think it's the funding model that we have in place right now is what we need to deal with. I think that reform is necessary, and I've been spending the last couple of years down in Olympia barking at our legislators to provide some support and fixes of that funding program for districts like Tahoma. So I think that that's really important. And then to the point of how does the quality impact the community? These graduates are going out in the community, they're ready for the future, they're ready to take things on, they're producing and they're contributing to our citizenry, and I'm really proud of that. That's one of the reasons why we moved here, and without that, I think that the educational programs would suffer.
Thank you. And so District 3, we're going to start with you, Jamie, and your question is, how can we ensure all of our children, regardless of economic status, have fair and equal access to a fully funded basic education? What are the long-term consequences of having an underserved segment of the school population? Does Tahoma have any underserved populations?
I think absolutely we do have underserved populations. Being that my kids go to Shadow Lake, and I've been at Shadow Lake for the last 8 years, I've definitely seen an underserved population there. I feel that in the way that you address this, and as someone who's actually been in the classroom with underserved populations before, I can tell you that the best way to serve these people is to go to them directly and find out their individual needs and find out how we can help them. I think one of the best moves that our school district is moving to right now is getting more outside help. We're starting to bring in more counseling and look for more social and emotional help out in our community. And we're starting to see some of the results of that. We're seeing improved classroom behaviors. We're seeing less stress on our teachers. But I think we need to continue to invest in our social emotional needs.
Thank you. Leah?
So yes, I believe that we do have underserved populations in our school district, and a big reason for that is because we just have a variety of diversity in our population, and in terms of what the state believes is basic education, it is very different than what we as Tahoma have come to know is basic education. We have committed to providing school nurses at every single site. We've committed to providing school counselors. We've committed to giving our kids access to technology so that they can go out into the world and be future ready. All of that is provided in large part because of the levies that we pass. And so it's critical that we continue to pass those as a community, and I am an active member of the Vote Yes campaign because I know that they empower our kids to truly graduate future ready, all of our kids, including the kids that come to us without the same opportunities.
We're now going to turn to position 3. Victoria, you will be up first. And our question is, please identify and prioritize your concerns with respect to public safety and crime in Maple Valley and its impact on local business.
Well, the main concern I have with crime in our town right now is concerned with property crime. So we're fortunate that there's not a lot of violent crime, and property crime is, I don't even feel like it's as bad as its perception. I don't think that that would really have an adverse effect on business, honestly. The next thing is probably drug use, and that's, again, I don't see that affecting businesses coming to town so much because it's not an epidemic level. But the property crime part, it's escalating a little bit in that it used to be mainly just car prowls, nobody's around, but lately there have been, more instances where they're getting a little bit more bold, and part of that may be, connected to drug and mental health issues and things like that. So I think those are things that need to be addressed, but I don't see them having a big impact on businesses coming to the area.
So I'll tell you just a story quickly to kind of get into my thoughts here. About a year and a half ago, I came home with my wife one night in my car, and my wife said, "Hey, it looks like I left my dome light on." And then I realized, no, you didn't leave your dome light on. Somebody's in your car. I drove up behind the car in the parking lot, or in our driveway, and the prowler got out, obviously. As he got out, I didn't realize that he had a partner who was driving down the street in a Ford Escape right behind him. And I was yelling at him to get on the ground as my wife was calling 911. And so he didn't obviously comply. But in that haste, his accomplice nearly ran over me. Unfortunately, my neighbor was out there and was able to kind of alert me that the vehicle was behind me. Two things to talk. One, neighborhood watches are incredible and critical. And two, that we really do need to continue our upgrading the number of officers in the field, especially at night.
Thank you. So our next question for position 5 is, Sid, could Maple Valley be more than a bedroom community? What measures should or could the city take to foster increasing our employment centers here in town? What could stifle such growth?
Say the last word again.
What could stifle such growth?
Okay. So yes, Maple Valley can be more than just a bedroom community. When I moved here, it was a bedroom community, but we've grown a lot. Now, to be more than that, we have to be able to have jobs appointed here where people can work here all day long and then support the businesses that are here. So what we're doing to do that is we've placed a moratorium on growth in the area south of the legacy site to do that while we come up with design standards for the future. That means bringing in satellite office locations, somebody like a Microsoft or a Amazon, instead of them busing their people out of here with 5 buses a day, giving them the opportunity to have their employees work here. The more we can do to encourage that, the more will be less of a bedroom community.
Thank you. Richard?
So this is a long-standing question that I've worked on while I'm a member of the Planning Commission. One of the key things is we need to start moving away from getting apartments and things like that within the town center, the commercial business zones. We need to start developing more than just simply retail space. We're looking at office space, multi-level office space in industries, so we can start bringing in more jobs. We talk about the daytime economy versus the regular economy. In order to capitalize on commercial growth, we had to start bringing in people from the 9 to 5 period. So they're not just simply working in an office downtown. They're actually buying from our local stores. They're buying from our folks that are selling locally. So this also goes with our own contractors. As a city, we should be looking internally for our contractors and consultants before we start going outside. So when we're talking about commercial growth, we need to start with the city first.
Thank you. And now to you, Mayor Kelly. How do you plan to obtain information and feedback from your constituents? What is your position on council participation on social media? How do you balance that fine line between speaking as an individual versus being an elected council person?
And I can see all the council members kind of smiling at me right now. I think it's extremely important we hear the voices of the citizens. We all check our emails constantly. I don't know how many town hall meetings we've had this year, at least 4 or 5 that I know of. We've all attended those. And the one thing that's really concerning to me when we have these town hall meetings is people are not coming. So either that means they're not concerned, or, which is good, we're doing a good job, or they just, they want to be involved in the process. And we want you involved in the process. It's very important that our citizens are involved in the process. As far as social media goes, we have a communications staff. She's here tonight. The city manager is outstanding at responding back to citizens with concerns. And we have an outstanding leadership team in the city that responds back to citizens in a pretty timely manner. And the council's carbon copy back on their emails back so we know what's going on. As far as individual council members responding back on social media, yes, I do it sometimes. And I think it's important sometimes as elected officials, we do respond back in a positive manner back to our constituents. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Now into round 3, back to District 3, and we are going to start with Malia. And the question for District 3 is, do you believe there is an achievement gap in this district? What can be done to close that gap to ensure an equitable education for all of our children? Please address the role of birth to 3 programming and kindergarten camp. And remember, school board folks, if there's a question that you want to get a chance to address, hold up that green card.
Yes, I do believe that there's an achievement gap. So in terms of birth to 3 programming, I think that research has continued to show the importance of providing early intervention for students. When you are able to provide early learning opportunities for kids, they demonstrate the benefits for a lifetime. And so it's really critical that our district continues to look at ways that we can provide those services for children in our district. In terms of kindergarten camp, I think it's a phenomenal way to make sure that when kindergartners arrive on our doorsteps, that very first day of kindergarten, that they're ready to hit the ground running. And I've been very impressed with the work that Tahoma School Foundation has done with that. So I look forward to continuing to collaborate and support their work. And yeah, going forward, I am extremely proud to have the endorsement of the Teachers Tahoma Education Association endorsement, because it demonstrates that I am collaborative and bring an experience of education that will be of value to this district. So I look forward to providing that experience as we promote these programs.
Jamie.
So yes, there's an achievement gap. There's always going to be an achievement gap in school districts, and that's because we can always do better, right? And we always should be trying to do better. As far as birth to 3 programming, of course we know the earlier we get involved in a child's life, the earlier we help those parents to get the services that they need in order to best provide quality education for their kid, the better. Kindergarten camp has we've done an excellent job in the last few years with the Tahoma Schools Foundation in providing a kindergarten camp. I would like to see that expanded, of course. But one of the best ways as a teacher that you can close that achievement gap, and I can tell you this from doing it for 6 years, is to diversify. Teachers need to know diversification, which means that they are changing and adapting their lesson plans to meet every kid at their level and push them. If we are not meeting our kids at their level and pushing them forward, then we're going to see and continue to have that achievement gap.
Thank you. District 4, we will start with you, Pete. The question for District 4 is class size. We know that Washington State Legislature governs class size with respect to K through 3, setting a limit on the maximum number of students per teacher. However, the legislature has not addressed class capacity for 4th through 12th grade. Do you think that 4 through 12 should have class size capacities? And should class size be consistent from school to school within our district? If you had to pick, what's worse, big classes or portables?
Yeah, I just got, it's like 5 things.
Okay, so here we go, I'll recap it for you guys. Should 4 through 12 have a cap? Should we have consistent class size from school to school in the district? What's worse, portables or big classes?
Okay, great. I do think that having a cap is important. The teachers will have more of an opportunity to engage with students if they are able to do that more on a one to fewer basis. So I do believe that that's important, and I think it's great to be able to look for those opportunities where we can find them. Consistency and equity across the district is really important. I want, particularly from school to school, level to level, and I should say not only from school to school within a level, but level to level, the student should have a consistent experience from elementary all the way through to high school. So I think that equity is really critical. I think that's a big part of our culture. If I had to choose between big classes and portables, I would choose portables. As long as they're safely constructed and closed in and warm and safe and dry, then that provides a good opportunity for kids to learn and to do so in an environment with your students and allows the teachers to really press in a little more.
Okay, sorry, I can do this as more yes, I think that class size across the board in all classes is important. I taught, and there were times that I had classes with 22, and then there were times that I had classes with 28. Just those 3 extra students or 4 extra students made the whole difference in my teaching. When I had a younger, or not a younger, a smaller class size, I was able to assist my students better. I was able to, not departmentalize, I'm sorry. I was able to change my lessons and make it more personal to my students. I think that it should be consistent across the board for all schools. Portables or big classrooms, I would choose portables. I taught in portables before. It's not bad. It actually was nicer for us because we got air conditioning. Yes.
Great. Thank you. We're going to go down to position 5 for the City of Maple Valley. Richard, we will start with you. And the question for position 5 is, most of our neighboring cities have affordable housing. Capital A, capital H, term of art. With respect to some form of subsidized housing, Section 8 housing, or other low-income housing option, what is your take on affordable housing in our city? Should Maple Valley make it a priority to increase our options for affordable housing?
Well, affordable housing comes back to the laws of supply and demand. It's straightforward. And the more we build apartments and various other types of properties, such as multi-use housing, you're going to find that property values are going to increase, which forces the cost of housing and even the leasing space for businesses to go up. Unfortunately, we can't control what other cities are doing. However, we can partner with them so they can have the offset. If they've got it existing, maybe you could develop some sort of reciprocity between both of us so we can focus on how we can increase our public safety, whereas some of those guys might be coming into our city to cause a little disruption, which goes back to the crime question. So one of the things that I think we should really do is focus on how we can manage what we have now and really look at the cost of housing, how we can develop programs and policies that can kind of saturate some affordable equity within the properties available now before we start looking forward.
Sid.
Right, thank you for the question. So the question had dealt with Section 8 housing, which is subsidized housing. So first of all, we do have Section 8 housing available in Maple Valley. We don't have a large stock of it, but we do have it. It's along Wax Road in the apartments there. In the new Ascent apartments, there is a portion of that that's been designated for Section 8 housing. Now, the bigger question is, if we have Section 8 housing, who's going to utilize those units? Section 8 housing means people need to be, or tend to be lower income, and so you have to have access to the jobs. Now, if you have transportation issues, you can't get to your jobs. Maple Valley does not have a robust public transportation system to get in and out of the city throughout the day. Without that, you're not going to see a large number of people coming here because they can't access their jobs.
Now turning to Mayor Kelly, your question is, when affecting change, the city can only do so much alone. We must have regional partners. How do you plan to advocate or to continue to advocate for our city beyond the city limits, both regionally and in Olympia?
Oh, yes. This is a major priority to the city council and to the city leadership team at city manager's office. We have a great partnership with our regional partners, King County. We've gone down to meet with Dow Constantine, the executive, several times about going to hold the property around the high school here. And the city manager is working with the executive staff on that, the future development of that. Also, we work with our legislators extremely well on transportation issues and also funding for our city projects like more parking at the park recently, more issues like that. So we have great partnerships with our regional partners. Reagan Dunn, Councilman Reagan Dunn is really supportive of a lot of things. We get money from King County through him on the issues that are going on there. And we want to have those partnerships. And the final thing is we want our partnerships with the Chamber, Rotary, Kiwanis, and the Lions. We have to have those partnerships with those organizations so when we go meet with them, they can come along too and say we want that partnership too. And the final thing I want to say is once a year, it's really quick, in May, we have a tri-city meeting with all three of the cities out here, and we set goals for the year for city managers and the mayors, and we move forward on those, and we set to keep moving forward with those. So we're very highly respected in King County and Southeast King County because of that, so thank you.
Thank you. Position 3, we will start with you, Les. And the question for you both is, what do you propose to address traffic and mobility in the next 5 years? Please be specific. Talk to us about what's already in the pipeline to address our traffic problem, and is it realistic for our citizens to expect real change and relief in the next 5 years?
So, first of all, we just adopted the 6-year transportation improvement plan. When I came on council, that plan was a $19 million plan of projects going forward. The projects that we just adopted totaled $45 million over the next 6 years. So we have real change that's coming forward in our transportation network on Maple Valley Highway. But that will be over the course of the next 5 to 6 years. In terms of the pipeline, we need to also then move forward in the next couple of years with changes on the Kent Canyon route into the city. And that will be dependent upon sources of funding. That will be dependent upon our ability to work with developers in accessing other mitigation monies. And it will be dependent upon our continued push to make that happen. Accelerated transportation was one of the reasons I came on council, and we'll continue to work on those things.
Victoria.
So the transportation improvement plan, as Les mentioned, it's underway already, and that's going to address 169 Woody Road, Kent Canyon, and the two Lindas from City Council have been representing us well at the South County Transportation Committee, as well as the coalition that's spearheaded by our own Chamber of Commerce here. So, and they've gone to Olympia and they've gotten big changes started. So thank you for that. As far as smaller scale things that can be done right now, and that's because those are things that are going to happen over the next 5 to 7 years or plus. I think we could really benefit from shuttle service within our own town, especially as we're building more and we're going to need parking spaces and we're going to be trying to get to those businesses. Additionally, there's a member of City Council who had a wonderful idea about coming up with a Microsoft Connector style bus, but for Boeing employees. She tried to bring that up a little bit ago and it didn't get any traction, and I would love to help her revive that. So,
thank you. So now we move into rounds 4 and 5, which is our candidate choice portion. I only have a handful of candidate selected questions. So we're starting with District 4, and Stormy, it would be you, but I don't have a specific question that you had wanted to address that was already asked. You want me to draw one? Okay. The buzzword today in education is growth mindset. We ask our students to possess a growth mindset with respect to learning. Do you believe the district itself possesses a growth mindset? Please address how you will specifically bring a growth mindset to the board.
I think growth mindset is important. We have lots of things to improve on, and we're doing lots of things very well. And I think we need to focus on the things that we're doing well and how we can do better.
Okay, sorry. All right. Pete, you had indicated that you want to answer the question about the achievement gap.
Yeah.
Pete, to recap it, is there an achievement gap in our district? What can be done to close that gap to ensure equitable education for all of our children? Will you please address the role of birth to 3 programming and kindergarten camp as well?
Great. So our daughter, we learned, kind of figured out when she was about 2 years old that she had deficits of one sort or another. And we started looking into that and understand more about it. Ultimately, came to the determination that she was on the autism spectrum, and got put together with a wonderful organization called Children's Therapy Center, which is an outside partnership with the district and this agency that gave her a lot of support from that first year from 2 to 3. When she reached the age of 3, she was able to enter into the Lake Wilderness preschool program, which really helped her out. She was able to grow tremendously during that time. So I would love to see more partnerships like that. I would love to see us utilize those types of programs frequently. I was also on the board for Kids Quest Children's Museum for the last 10 years, which is an early learning institution in Bellevue, and a big part of their mission is to make kids kindergarten ready. So I've kind of seen that boots on the ground, and I think that the school district is doing wonderful things to make kids ready for kindergarten. I want to see that improved.
Thank you. Turning now to Jamie and Malia, you both indicated you'd like to address the class size question. To remind our audience, we know that the state legislature governs class size for K through 3. However, it has not addressed capacity for 4 through 12. Should 4 through 12 have a class size cap? Should our class size be consistent school to school? And if you had to pick, portables or big classes? Jamie, you can start.
So, yes, I do think that consistency would be nice from school to school. However, that is impossible because of the capacity of each individual school that we have. Some of our schools are larger and some of those schools are smaller. But I think, of course, when possible, we should have even class sizes. As far as 4 to 12 class size caps go, I spent 6 years in overcrowded classrooms. I know what that looks like and what that feels like. What that means is that not all the needs of the students in that room are going to be met. What that also does is it overextends our teachers. And as a teacher, it can be extremely difficult to teach in that environment over time. We wear our teachers down, and we want to keep and retain the best teachers possible. But we know we're going to be growing in the future, so we need to get ahead of this problem. We need to start to communicate with our community and start to plan for our future. When we communicate with them, then our community will be able to decide whether they would like more schools.
Thank you. Malia.
So we all know that our community continues to grow, which is fantastic. We know and love this community, so we know that more people are going to come. And lowering class size is obviously a top priority. As a teacher, I've seen firsthand how important it is so that we can actually provide differentiated instruction for our kids. It would be fantastic if we could have a cap size in grades 4 through 12. Obviously, having lower class size in any grade is important because we can differentiate and provide a customized experience for our kids. Providing an equitable experience across the schools is also important, and I was selected as a member of the housing committee that is now charged with creating a short-term fix for our overcrowded schools and then a longer 10-year plan that we'll be hopefully presenting to the board in April. So I'm excited to help be part of the change plan. And then I would pick portables over large class sizes. I think that is beneficial. Just having lower class sizes always trumps portables.
All right, and we will now turn to you, Mayor Kelly. We'll get you a new question. For the long term, what's your vision for the golf course?
Lake Williams? Lake Williams Golf Course?
No, the other three.
There was some here a while ago. No, Lake Williams Golf Course, in my vision, will still be there in 45 to 50 years when I leave this town. So it will still be there. I would like to see, and city staff is doing a really good job of getting a new owner of the golf course. We contracted out, not an owner, but contracted out. And they have some really good new ideas of what to do, how to get the community involved. In fact, on the 24th, we're doing a haunted house there. So come on down to the city for, the golf course there for a haunted house. But yes, we need to have something like that to keep people involved in recreational activities around town. And we do need to look at the clubhouse. That is kind of deteriorating pretty bad in there. If it was a school, there's no way we'd have students in it. So we really need to start looking at that pretty seriously, and city staff has already started working on that. So we're really going to work on the golf course in the next years.
Is the golf course waterproof?
Dave Johnson's right down there. Dave, you got the tarps over the greens. Thank you.
All right. Turning to position 3, we will start with you, Victoria, and I will draw a question. What do you believe are the 3 most concerning issues that you will actively seek to address if elected?
Growth, for starters, managing, making sure we're growing properly. Revisiting the tree code. I really think we need to do much, much better with our tree retention. And economic development. Those are the 3 main things.
So the 3 things that were really critical in the next 4 years are, first of all, transportation. We have to continue just a focus on that does not let up, and that persists with our legislature and our legislative representatives. Also, the legacy site and how that is built out in our town center as a focus point in our community is huge. And I am looking forward to creating a very unique space that reflects the character and nature of Maple Valley. And it's not a strip mall, but is more reminiscent of what you feel when you come into Maple Valley is the culture of Maple Valley. And finally, economic development in terms of office space, convincing developers on the land that we have remaining to build that type of space so we can work in our city.
Turning now to position 5, both Sid and Richard have indicated that they would like to answer the question about public safety and crime. So to refresh the memory, please identify and prioritize your concerns with respect to public safety and crime in Maple Valley and its impact on local business. Sid, you may begin.
Thank you. So as the mayor first earlier said, Maple Valley is ranked the 8th safest city in Washington. Now that said, there is a perception that there's a higher crime rate here. Now, the council has given direction to our prosecuting attorney that we do expect to have crime prosecuted when we get to that point. Now, let's talk a little bit about what types of crimes we have. A lot of the crime we do have is, as Councilor Burberry said, crimes of opportunity, coming home and finding your car broken into. Our police department would say 2 main things to do: keep your garage doors closed at night, keep your cars locked, because as people can come through summertime, people get bored, they're out doing things late at night, they come by, it's easy to do that. But from the city standpoint, what the city can do, we've done a number of things. As I said earlier, we're adding 1 police officer this year, because one is taking longer, and then 1 police officer next year. And we're also adding a police substation in the Ascent Apartments. That's coming on a little later, which will help facilitate the police on the south end.
So if we take crime into perspective, we got to take the blinders off and not focus strictly on property crime, and kind of grow the boundaries beyond Maple Valley. So when crimes happen, whether it be vehicles, driving under the influence, to property, to even personnel crimes, you expand that area. Yeah, Maple Valley might not be added to the statistics, but there is crime, and it's growing, especially if we grow. So we focus on what we call the public safety triad, the engineering, education, and environment. You shape that, and you actually develop a resilient system. The engineering looks into the proactive policing side of the prioritization of public safety. Your environment looks at the cultural reporting, getting folks like the community and social media to really report suspicious activity and be proactive in crime management. The final piece is the education. It's not just the schools, but let's look at developing community forums and engaging the community so that way they can understand where we stand as a community and a leadership within the city.
Now to our final round of candidate choice questions, which we ran out of select ones, so we'll draw. And after that is audience questions. We've got some great audience questions here. So next up is going to be our school district candidates, and we're going to start with Malia. And for District 3, your question is?
Perception. Some in the community feel that the Tahoma School District and School Board have attempted to maintain the status quo rather than address controversial or complicated issues. What would you do to change this perception? You may begin. Malia.
So yes, based on people I've talked with, there is a perception that our school district has a difficult time handling or addressing controversial issues. And I've thought of some ways that I think that we could improve upon our responses. Let me give you a specific example. With our levy, you might remember that 2 years ago we ran 2 different levies. They were up for vote and both of them failed. We were actually the only district that had our levies fail. At that time there were about 14 others in King County and they all passed except for ours. And we learned a lot of very important things, including the power of communication. We learned that we have to be very specific about the impacts that our levies have on homeowners and the property taxes that they have to pay. So now we know that when we are running a levy, we have to say, if your house is $300,000, this is how much of an impact this levy is going to have on you. And we need to be very clear about what programs are going to benefit from our levies so that our voters actually understand what, how important they are to empowering our students' education.
So yes, I think there is a perception, but I think there's very easy ways that we can combat that. The first thing is to do what's right for our children. And that means that we create better transparency by providing better access to our meetings and parent-teacher conferences and other events through streaming, translation services, and child care services. When we allow our community access to our board meetings, then there's this feeling that you are all welcome. We need to have our board members create community listening sessions where we really get to communicate and interact one-on-one with our board members. We also need to make sure that we are providing a sun-up to sundown support system for our families by giving them better access to information with regard to the services and programs that we run here in our school district, and giving parents linked support systems so that as students transition from elementary to middle school to high school and beyond, we are supporting our parents, making sure they understand what that process looks like and how we can all help them.
Great, thank you. Now we are going to turn to Pete and Stormy. Pete, you will start first for District 4, and your question is, what has the district done well in the last 5 years, but what are 2 to 3 needs that we absolutely must address? Could you please get beyond identifying priorities and give specific suggestions for how?
There's a lot to celebrate with Tahoma. I think we've got a lot of things that we're doing well. I'll just say that. I think that there's a lot to celebrate. A couple of needs that I think that we have. I think that, was mentioned earlier, communication is a big part of the fabric of the way that the district connects with the community. I think that we've got an opportunity there to enhance that. That's a big part of my job, is to interpret information and be able to discuss that with people in a way that's easy for them to understand. And I look forward to being able to do that. I think that that's a need that we have. I think that's something that we can do better by engaging with the community where they are, having discussions with them in a variety of ways, and bringing the facts to them. I'll leave it with that because we're running out of time.
What has the district done well over the last 5 years? And what are some needs, 2 to 3 needs, that should be prioritized to address? Please give specific suggestions for how to address those needs.
Okay, so the things that the district has done well, I think that the teachers are amazing here. I've been in the classroom, I'm amazed by what I see, the interaction that they have with the students. I'm amazed by the leaders or administration who come in and support those teachers. I think that that's what we're doing well. We're providing our kids with a good education. Something I do think that we need to work a little bit more on is having a little more diversity in committee meetings so that people are working together and having different opinions and making those opinions working together. Making something that's good even better, because we have differences and we're using those differences to make great things happen. I do believe that social economics, I know I did green, but social economics is very, not social, emotional stuff is very important, and that we as a district are trying to work on there, but we can improve in some areas.
Thank you. Position 3, we will start with you, Les, and the question is?
I'm sorry, Rick. When I ask, you said that we could read
you have another one you want to take?
previous
Yep.
questions?
Yep.
Yes.
Which one would you like?
The question regarding evolution of our bedroom community.
Absolutely. Let's see here, I can find it for you. So I can read it. It's going to be the last question I find.
I think it was question number 2 to David Axtell and to Sid Elson.
Could Maple Valley ever be more than a bedroom community? What measures should or could the city take to foster increasing our employment centers here in town? What could stifle such growth? Is that it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that this is a very important question because there is a necessity for us to evolve as from a bedroom community. And the necessity is involving 2 reasons. One, it's because we are currently about 95% built out. The remaining 5% of our properties, the Bitney property, the Legacy site, some of the property in Hayes Pit, are all zoned commercial, not residential. And so as that commercial is built out, the reason why it makes a difference for us is because if we remain just a bedroom community, we will not be able to supply the amount of revenue that is needed through the current taxes that we have. We have to diversify our revenue stream. And so that's one reason. The second reason is to fulfill that dream, live, work, and play where you live, and not have 25% of our population commuting 1 hour to work each way. Being able to bring jobs into the community is essential to that next phase of becoming a more diversified community in that regard.
Thank you. Victoria, did you like to address that question, or do you want me to pick your new one? Okay.
So yeah, I do agree with that. And there's a lot more to it too than just the economic piece of it, but that is hugely important because as we do slow down with the building, we're going to lose those dollars because that's our number 1 revenue stream is from construction taxes. And second is sales tax. So the more of the types of businesses we bring to town that can actually generate sales, the more vibrant we'll be economically. So, but it's not just about stores and shopping, it's about recreation, it's about things that people want to do in the community. And it's about, first and foremost though, employment centers. And I think you alluded to that earlier. that we have to have places for people to work, and we have to be able to support a 24-hour city, or maybe not 24 hours, nobody's going out at 2 a.m., but that's how we become truly vibrant, is by becoming more than just a bedroom community. So,
Thank you. Position 5, we'll start with you, Richard, and the question is, do you believe that the city needs to work to increase our services for mental health and drug dependency?
Definitely. Part of it is involving the children at the schools as well as the educators and making sure that we are working together. It goes back to the premise, if you see something, say something. Most mental health situations, I know that as being a veteran, and I dealt with a lot of vets with PTSD, so a lot of them single themselves out and they don't seek out help, so they kind of internalize. So if a member of the community sees someone that is facing these kinds of conditions, then that person would benefit from others reaching out to them to help out. That's where it starts. Before we start getting into the professional services and various other medical assistance, it needs to start within the community and within the teachers and within the people that everyone looks up to, which is the community members themselves. The next part is going to the next step, which is the drug services and the counseling services, and making sure we have a diversity of services for all the types of addictions and all the types of mental health issues that we have within our community.
So if I could, I'd like to respond to the question on the golf course.
Great.
Can you read that again?
Absolutely. For the long term, what is your vision for the Lake Wilderness Golf Course?
I see the golf course as being a valuable asset to the city for many, many years. It provides green space that everybody enjoys. I was part of the committee that selected the new golf course operator, Cornerstone. They're doing a wonderful job. They're investing their own money along with asking the city to do upgrades into improving that site. But it's only a portion of the total park systems that we have to have here. And if you go down, just down the road from there, in the woods is another course, another golf course, but it's a disc golf course, which is amazingly one of the most highly rated golf courses, disc golf courses in the state of Washington. People come from all over to play that course. And something I was, I kind of poo-pooed at the time. I had no way you're going to play disc golf in trees. But it's because it's so challenging, people love it. But, so when you talk golf courses, we do have more than one golf course.
Well, that's why I was asking.
Sorry.
So, the Lake Wilderness Golf Course, I believe, is a long-term asset, along with the Gaffney Disc Golf Course.
Thanks. So our last question goes to you, Mayor Kelly. Was there one you wanted to address, or should I draw you a new one?
I was talking about.
Okay.
They all did a really good job answering that.
Then after this, we'll go to our audience questions. We've got some great ones. So Mayor Kelly, currently, state-owned park and rides cannot be used by private businesses to shuttle employees to work. Would you support opening these parking areas to private corporations to provide business-based shuttle service? If so, how would you work to make that happen and implement it?
I think it'd be a great idea, and Councilor Olson will probably be going to Olympia to talk to legislators about this during the session. She's already talked about it. And yeah, we need to get more parking available for our commuters going to the Seattle, Bellevue outlying areas. Because right now, they either park in the Williams Village, thank you, Jim Flynn, and then, or they park, in people's, they all meet at the residential places. When I worked in Boeing, we used to, 3 of us from here, Maple Valley, would meet at a guy's house, and then we carpool to Renton, get a van pool there, and then go to Everett. So yeah, we do need to work with Olympia to work on that, and King County Metro themselves, because they have to be willing to do this too. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is where our format transitions a little bit, and I invite the candidates for each pool to let me know if they would like to address the question themselves. So our first question is for the school board candidates. From the audience, the recent resignation of our school superintendent has left me confused and caused me to lose confidence in our school board. Do you feel the school board owes the public transparency, or an explanation of how its vision differed from the previous superintendent. How would you help the public regain trust in the process for hiring our next superintendent? So to recap, do you feel the school board owes the public transparency or an explanation on how its vision differed from the previous superintendent? And how would you work to help regain the trust from the public when you are hiring our next superintendent? Would one of the four like to address that? Go ahead, Amanda.
So I probably would have handled the resignation, accepting the resignation of our superintendent a little bit differently. The feedback I've gathered is that there was a lot of confusion around the circumstances leading to his resignation. And so I have given a lot of thought about how we could handle that differently in the future. And I think it really goes back to communication. That's an area that our district can continue to grow and improve on. And a good example of that is that there has been a lot of talk about live streaming meetings, which I think is a great start to opening the doors so that people who are interested in continuing to stay abreast with what's happening in our district can do so. But I've also found that there are a lot of families that don't have the time to sit down and watch a 2 to 3 hour meeting. And so it's really critical that we provide bite-sized pieces of information to them as well, which is why I started doing a big 3 takeaway after every meeting so that families can stay up to date with current progress in 2 to 3 minutes max. And they know 3 big things that happened in the meeting the night before.
Any other candidates that would like to address that question? Jamie, would you? Go ahead. Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, sorry, that got confusing because Steve was moving my mind. Okay. All right. Okay, so like all of you, I was shocked at our superintendent's resignation. And I think people loved our last superintendent. The thing that I hear over and over again from parents and community members was that he really listened to the needs and concerns of parents. And then of course, our own school district said he has high integrity, skill, knowledge, and experience. So I think what we really needed was to be taken on that journey. We needed to see the process that our school district went through to get to that point. How do you open that up in the future? Well, we need to make sure that as we select our new superintendent, that we're very clear about what we're looking for. And I think with regard to that transparency, I have worked very hard to consistently attend our school board meetings and post those. And they're not 2 hours, they're actually short little chunks. They're broken up by subject matter so that people can watch. Most of the subjects end up taking 10, 15 minutes, and then they move on. So I hope you continue to look for those.
So, like most of you, I was kind of sad and shocked as well. One of the reasons that I was running for school board is to work with him. I think he's a great man, still is, he's still alive. Yes, I have lots of questions still. I feel that there should have been a little bit more transparency. There was nothing that came up to that point where, like, we didn't know, it just happened. Something that I think about trusting, I don't think it will come tomorrow or the next day. I think it will come by how we are. Like, if we are truly trustworthy and we are being honest with the community, I don't think, like, you don't know me, I don't know you, and you'll only know. I will gain that trust with the community with time and with experience as I am being trustworthy with other people and I'm being open and transparent. Like, that's where you're going to gain trust and trust from me. Thank you.
Like everybody else said, I really like Tony. I think he's a wonderful man. I learned a lot from him, and he was engaging. I'd say that the complicating factor is the human resources laws that comes around with these types of issues. I would have liked to have known more about what happened. I understand that there are legal reasons why that can't happen in all cases. If that's the case, I would have loved to have known that. I would have loved to have that been explicitly stated and said, this X, Y, or Z cannot be disclosed because of this reason. If there were things that could be disclosed, I would have liked to have known what those things are. So I think that we had an opportunity to perhaps disclose some things that we could and explain a reason why we couldn't disclose other things because of legal reasons. As far as regaining the trust, I do believe that access is a huge opportunity to provide access in a variety of ways, help the community understand how we're making decisions, what is informing those decisions, and ultimately how we're making those conclusions.
Thank you. Turning now to our city council candidates. Serving on city council involves more than attending scheduled meetings. There are community events, committee meetings, along with reading meeting packets in preparation. How have you prepared for these extra hours that are required for your position if you are elected to the position you seek? Let's go ahead and start with you, Mayor Kelly. You come this way.
I'm very fortunate. I have a wife and a son that are very supportive of what I do. I know I'm going to be a little busy reading packets. The last packet was over 300 pages. Sometimes they can get up to 800 pages, especially if we have zoning issues going on. As a council member, you're right. We have to be out there and engage with our community a lot. It's not just 2 meetings a month. You have to be out there at all the community events, coffee of council on the week, once every Saturday, and every once a month on Saturday. Those are really, really good there. And also we have to respond to emails and phone calls of our constituents. We want to have that dialogue with our constituents. So please email us, call us, come talk at a public comment at a council meeting. It means a lot to us. Most of our ideas come from you.
Les, would you like to answer?
Yes, the more engaged our community is, the better government works. And I think I speak for all of us in the council currently and those that are running. And that is, we love for you to approach us to talk about, the issues. Engaging in the issues is really key to making things better. And so that's something that we enjoy. And so please don't hesitate to email us, to call us, to contact us in that regard. In terms of preparing ourselves for that, it does take time to set aside. It takes time, frankly, on my weekends, sitting down when we get the packet on Friday nights and making sure that that it's gone through, and I know not only what is in it, but where I'm going to stand on the issue, and then what am I going to do to even do the research beyond what's in the packet. There's a lot of issues that really have they have a lot more implications beyond just what's in the packet that you have to study.
So I believe that being on city council means doing the extra and doing more than what is just required. And that's why I've already committed myself to you guys. I don't have an obligation. You haven't elected me. But ever since I announced my candidacy about 6 months ago, I've been bothering City Hall often. They can attest to that. I've met with countless community leaders, people on the Planning Commission, anybody that would listen, and I've been seeking out just community members wanting feedback and what do you think's right and what do you think's wrong and what we can do better. I've already committed that time to you, and to me that's probably half of why I want to do this, is because I do want to be involved, and I think we truly can make it so much better together. And I think that's an exciting part of it, and hopefully if I'm given the opportunity, you can count on me and I'll be there for you.
So this whole year has been, with all kinds of crazy stuff for me. I recently was deployed to the Bahamas in response to Hurricane Dorian. My son went through life-threatening surgery. 3 times he had to be resuscitated on the operating table. So why do I do this? Well, for me, I believe any elected position, any position I serve, is all about accountability. We have to be accountable to the public. We're not focused on seeking out a position just to be in a position. When I came back to this community, the first thing I did was I went to Fred Meyer's, and I looked to the people enjoying their comfort of being within the city of Maple Valley. And yeah, we always hear people get angry after the fact when they feel that they're not heard. Well, I believe in hearing people because I believe in the purest form of governance in the fact that we represent the people. So when you talk, I will definitely listen, and I believe in that.
So, serving on the city council does require a lot of time. As the mayor said, we quite often get packets every other week that contain 300 or more pages. Quite often it takes me twice to read through it to be able to understand it, then following up with questions. But it's not only, and then along with the other additional committees, social community activities going on, it takes probably on the average for us 10 hours apiece to do this. Now, but for me personally though, coming prepared for the meetings is extremely important because if I don't, it's disrespectful to all the other council members for me not to be prepared, and more importantly, it's disrespectful for the voters, if I'm not prepared to represent them adequately. So it's a commitment that you have to make. You have to be willing to do it all the time, not when it's convenient.
Thank you. Okay, it is 8:26, so we have just enough time for each of you to give a 1-minute wrap-up statement. I have more questions. I wish we could get through them, but it's getting a bit late. So what we will do is each of you will have a minute to wrap up. Say whatever you have not had the opportunity to say, something that you would like people to walk away with in their mind. And what we will do is we will start with Stormy here, and we will move this way, all the way down to Mayor Kelly.
Last night we had 30 seconds, or yesterday afternoon we had 30 seconds. First of all, I believe that it is very important that our community is invested in the education of our students. Our students are, that's why I'm here, that's why all of us are here, is to make sure that our students are getting the very best that we can possibly offer them. A way that we can improve is to have more transparency and be more involved as a community. Teachers need to be properly trained. I also believe that teachers need support from their administrators, and then the administrators need support from the community. And something that I really believe as a teacher, if we are taking care of our teachers, they will be taking care of our children. I also believe in technology. When I taught, I had a technology classroom. We are moving into a world where technology, our kids are coming into technology, and we need to be providing that so that when they come out into the world, they are prepared.
Thank you very much for hosting this. Great job, Griffin. Thanks to the Chamber. I really appreciate it. Over the last 12 years or so, I've served on a variety of boards. One of the key things that I've learned from that is that the board is the what, and the organization's leadership and staff is the how. The board is, their purpose is to come up with a strategic plan for the organization, set them on that course, and make those priorities, make those choices for them, and then rely on the professionals that are in the positions throughout the organization to carry out those priorities. For me, a kid's educational experience inside and outside of the classroom is absolutely where my priorities are, and those are the things that I'm going to be focusing on if I were to be elected. I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the Teachers Education Association for Tahoma, our local representatives in our legislative district, Bill Ramos and Lisa Callan, and Equal Rights Washington as well. I've got some wonderful priorities, and I would encourage you to go out to my website, LordPeteMiller.com, and check those out, because I'm going to run out of time.
So what everyone in this room needs to know is how important it is to get the right people on our school board. We are at a crossroads, and when the board meets to create our kids' future, it is critical that they collaborate and they problem solve and they use teamwork to make positive changes and positive differences for our kids. That is who I am. I treat others with mutual respect and kindness. And I'm extremely proud to have received the Tahoma Education Association's endorsement because it demonstrates my history of collaboration and also the experience that I provide as a teacher and as a small business owner who has built a business based on my passion for education. I hope I can earn your vote in November 5th election because I am extremely excited to help all of our students thrive. And my focus will be on 4 key issues. One is mental health. The second is on differentiation in terms of instruction. Third, I'll be focusing on class size. And then finally, I'll be focusing on fixing the funding model.
So, what I want you to walk away here today knowing about myself. I have committed to achieve fiscal responsibility within the Tahoma School District. And I can back that up with my years as a business owner and my years as an economics teacher. My continued efforts to create a transparent school district, my desire and history of cultivating community of inclusion for all. I served and taught at one of the most diverse schools in our country with over 100 languages spoken there. I have a history of actually working with people from all different backgrounds and all different histories. And of course, my intent to create avenues where parents receive the needed support that they have to connect them better to our schools. But most importantly, my boots on the ground experience as a high school teacher for 4 years, a junior high school teacher for 2 years, and serving the last 8 years in our elementary schools here in Tahoma, make me the strongest and best fit to move Tahoma forward.
So thank you again to the Chamber and to Griffin for moderating this tonight. As I was preparing for this tonight, I couldn't help but think about today. Today, he passed away a number of years ago, but today would have been his 99th birthday. He was a member of the greatest generation. He was a naval aviator. He was a special agent in the FBI. He was a man of high integrity, honesty, loyalty. Traits he instilled in me. Through that, I learned the value of committing and contributing to our communities. That's why I've served on a number of community boards, and I am now on the city council because of that. Those things I learned from him. Now, the time I've been on the council, we've done a number of wonderful things, but there's still things that I believe I can help contribute to. Our transportation improvements, economic development, and sensible growth. So in the next 4 years, I commit to you and the voters to making those improvements.
So first of all, I want to say thank you. I'm originally from England, so when I moved here in 2014, I saw a great opportunity for me and my family. Someone asked me recently, what would I like to see in 5 years in Maple Valley? And the one thing I said is, on Memorial Day, I would love to see the flags flying all up and down the streets. And maybe some sort of parade with the veterans and the kids and the community. I mean, this is our pride. I would also love to see I know it sounds good, but the robotics club beat the hell out of everybody else at Houston. Come out and so that way I keep my wife off my back. She's Booster Club president, so. But I'd also love to see this community grow financially and as a community itself. You guys are already doing great on Facebook. I see the messages and the love going across. But believe me, if someone screws up, I see that too. So I'm grateful for all of you.
First, I want to say thank you to the number of people in this room who have given me a great education in civics over the last 6 months. It's been amazing, and it's a part of me now, no matter what happens. And I want everybody in this room to know that I am not just a 1 or 2 issue candidate. There are a lot of things that are near and dear to my heart, but out of all of them, the nearest and dearest is this city. I love it like a person, and I want to spend at least the next 4 years doing everything I can to serve it. Among the things that are specifically priorities to me are tree retention. I think you got that tonight. Also, I really want to help small businesses. As a small business owner, I can tell you it's really difficult to start one in this town. It's just really expensive. So I'd like to do anything I can to get behind that. Of course, growing manageably and making sure we bring employment centers to town, all those things that are just going to help make us better. I want us to keep feeling like Maple Valley, and I know that we will.
Thank you. You know, we are blessed in this community. We have actually a lot of great people to work with, both in the school district and in every facet here. And we're fortunate. We have a great slate of candidates before you. And contested races are a good indicator of the ability of the community to discuss ideas. But I just want to talk real briefly about an issue that really faces us today and is more important than even just our local social issues. The state of the face of politics in general is just plain ugly. We need to change that. And we start changing that right here in Maple Valley. You know, I'm proud of the race Victoria and I have run because there's mutual respect. We got together early on to have coffee, to focus on issues, and refuse to engage in mudslinging. And I would say that what I would implore you as constituents to do is to reward civility with your vote, to engage with issues, and to not say anything on social media that you wouldn't say to someone's face. Use the filter on social media that you use in your discussions face to face.
First of all, I want to say is we need to continue working on, the city does not use the word no. Let's work together, figure out how to fix a process, and move forward there. Second thing I want to work on, continue working on, is public safety, and our number one issue, I think we have a big issue right now, is mental health. We have to go down and work on getting more funding for mental health statewide, especially in our community, because we do have a mental health issue on a wide one-hitter day, and 2 times we had to deal with people with mental health issues. The third thing I want to continue is work on our outstanding partnerships we have, and our number one partner we have is the Tahoma School District. We have this awesome local agreement we're working on. We're going to lock it down next week, right, President Dean Pearson? We're going to lock it down next week, get that work down. The Val's back there, too, Daganelli, can work on it with us. We have great partnerships with the Chamber and all our community partners and our state legislators and King County. We have to continue those partnerships so we can move forward and make this one of the best cities and communities in the school district to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we get moving, I want to read the statement from Councilperson Linda Johnson, who is here. She's running unopposed, but she has given us her thoughts that she'd like to share. She wanted to thank the Chamber for inviting her to participate in the forum. She's completing her 4th term on City Council, and she's running unopposed for her 5th term. She has served for 16 years. The citizens of Maple Valley, the citizens know her well, and she appreciates their continued support. She believes that the forum tonight should give candidates an opportunity to express their positions and thoughts on issues facing the city. Because she's a veteran council member and her positions are well known by the citizens, she decided to forego participation in the forum this year and give her time over to the other candidates who can benefit from the additional time to explain their positions on issues before the city. She believes that her broad experience on council will be beneficial as we continue working on issues including transportation, economic development, public safety, homelessness, and other concerns. As a voice for all of our citizens, she is the quiet professional addressing each issue with thoughtful consideration, striving always for balance. Linda appreciates your confidence in her and looks forward to serving her 5th term. And she flew home just in time to be here tonight. Thank you for being here.